Hi, I'm Catherine Morgan from Point A to Point B Transitions, and I am excited today to talk to my friend Tony Catalano.
I'm Tony Catalano. I'm with Catalano Technology Consulting. I have 20 plus years of experience in IT and business consulting. I have a passion for strategy, helping companies to develop strategies in IT, business in general, and help them to create both systems and processes to help them accomplish their strategic goals.
And I have to say that in my career, I have dived into the deep waters of strategy myself. I've been employed by KPMG, Arthur Andersen, and Deloitte. I've worked for the mid-tier firms as a project employee, Resources Global, Protiviti, and Navigant Consulting. And I've also had my own independent consulting agency for a long time, 10 years now and 5 years before. So Tony and I combined have a boatload, I think that's a technical term, of experience and strategy. And today we're going to kick off this conversation talking about the anatomy of a strategy. One, because it's a fun title. Two, because we're both sort of strategy geeks. And three, because Tony threw me the question of, well, what do you think makes up a strategy? And I kind of choked on it. I'm not sure I've ever really pulled apart the pieces. And that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah, so I guess kind of taking it from the top, what are the parts of a strategy? What are the most vital parts of a strategy? Sort of major topics, and then to look at them a little bit more granularly and their importance. What can change, what can't change. There are parts of a strategy that are flexible. And then there are parts of a strategy that, quite frankly, are just inflexible. They are what they are, and we deal with those things as part of our strategy. So I guess to start, what are the parts of a strategy? And I'm going to hit on sort of just the high level topics that I see. The team. What is the team? Who is this group that is going to decide what our direction is and what our strategic goals are, and then ultimately how we're going to get there?
Really? Because I would be inclined to start with the goal. I would think most people immediately, actually, maybe even don't think about the goal, they just jump into action. And you're starting with team. How come?
Well, I think that there are hidden parts to attaining the end goal that if you start with just that end goal in mind, you may or may not have assembled the right team. Remember, implementing a strategy affects the entire company or the person, relationship, whatever you're applying this strategy to. So assembling the right team might help to define that goal a little bit better, rather than just arbitrarily picking a goal and then finding those folks who can fit that goal.
Well, if nothing else, that might sense check the strategy to see if it really was doable by that organization with their current resources.
Indeed, absolutely. So yeah, I like to start with the team. I think that there are, again, that's one of those things that I would consider flexible, depending on the leadership that's involved, their level of commitment. They may be strict. They have a goal in mind, and you get brought in to help implement that goal, in which case you try and work with them. But the team is, to me, the vital, one of the most vital parts of implementing a strategy. And secondly is exactly what you talked about, the goal. Then defining that goal, finding that goal. What is it? Why is it? Not just what it is, but why? Why are we doing this? Why do we feel that we can or need to attain that goal? We want to become a $20 million company from a $10 million company. Well, why? How? Can it's something we can attain?
Right.
And then, there are some things that need to be discussed to that goal that might affect your ability to attain that goal. And I think all those things need to be addressed either early on or as part of your tactical maneuvers to attaining that strategy. Two parts: strategy,
Right.
tactical, how are we going to do this? And there are things that are going to change those. And this is, again, one of those things that can change. Believe it or not, a lot of people don't think of a goal as something that's movable. But the reality is there are changes that happen in business, particularly in a long range strategy, going from a $10 million company to a $20 million company. That's not going to happen overnight. And there are going to be changes that are going to happen to the company, to the personnel, to the industry, regulatory changes.
All sorts of changes, not to mention your policies and procedures, not to mention your hiring, your onboarding, your performance reviews. A certain number of people or dollars of revenue absolutely changes the way you have to do business.
Yeah, absolutely. And market change. Your product may become obsolete. There's things that I have in my house that I think to myself, why do I still have this? It became obsolete 5 years ago. And that happens to products on the market. So, and one of the most crucial changes that happens, back to your point, is executive level turnover.
Oh,
So,
goodness. That's a pretty big one, depending on your industry or basically how your company is funded. Like, I think there tends to be a lot more turnover in leadership if you're taking outside money versus bootstrapping or growing organically.
Sure. Yeah, it's leadership, executive leadership tends to be the ultimate sponsors of implementing a strategy.
Or one hopes that they're not just hoping to throw the consultants under the bus. Raise your hand if you've ever been that person.
Yeah.
Or if the executive leadership team has a big appetite for change, but the organization as a whole has zero. Once again, let's throw the consultants under the bus.
Well, that's why it's important for that team to assemble that team. You have to have all the stakeholders involved at every level, because as the consultant who's there to help implement that strategy, you need their voice. You need the voice of the person who's going to be the ultimate user of this system or this project.
Why does Bob in accounting want to do it differently when he's really comfortable with his spreadsheets, darn it?
Exactly.
But yeah. I want to actually go back because I think we missed talking about one thing. It would seem to me in a good strategy to create anticipated roadblocks or potholes and potentially also a little bit of risk analysis and some efforts to mitigate risk. How do you feel about that?
So I view that more as a tactical.
Okay.
So as I like to think of things as sort of a highway, and your strategy is that ultimate goal where you're trying to get. You need to plan in your tactical plan those exits and entrances, and set goals to say, if at this point we haven't reached ABC, we can exit the strategy, we can correct those things, and then we can re-enter the strategy. So I view that.
Ooh, I like that. On ramp, off ramp.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I tend to think in pictures. I think it helps me, and I think it helps to just illustrate to people a little easier on how this is really going to work from a big picture perspective.
Okay, so we have the strategy, we have the team, we have a goal, we have a why we're doing this, because there should be some reason, not just some vanity, ego driven metric, although anybody who's worked in corporate has experienced a couple of those. It should be potentially achievable, maybe a stretch, not something you came up with a Ouija board, might be a good plan. And then I'm sure, or maybe this is on the tactical side, the monitoring, the tracking, the metrics, or does that fall under strategy for you?
I think that is part of monitoring the tactical plan. But to me, there's one other big part of the strategic plan.
Okay.
This is one of those immovable objects. And I think this might have actually been how our conversation started. Um, to me, it's the most important part of the strategy, of that, the entire overall strategy. And that is, where are we now? We
Ah,
need to understand where we are to get to where we're going. And an example that I like to use is, if I told everybody to draw a map to a specific location, um, we'll likely get a bunch of different maps, because you might be drawing it from your house. I might be drawing it from the parking lot at the company. Someone else might be remote and drawing it from where they are. And so I think it's important that everybody in that team discuss and understand our starting point. And that's what, again, one of those things that is immovable. We are where we are, whether we like it or not. It might be why we're creating a new strategy, because of where we are. But it's important that everybody starts from the same spot to share that vision. So to me, it's if not the most important piece of a strategy, certainly one of.
yeah, I always like the maps because I have no sense of direction. So I'm always the person looking at the map in the mall or something with a big arrow, you are here. That's the picture I'm getting, is you're saying we need to all agree on where we are currently at, and then where we want to go as we're building out the strategy. Also, who's going to help us get there.
Right. I like to title my meeting to discuss that, exactly that. You are here.
You are here.
Where are we? Where are we starting from? So those are I think, the basic things, elements, or the anatomy of a strategy. And then some of those tactical things that you were talking about, those roadblocks, and what are we going to do about them? How are we going to handle them? Can we just jump them and keep moving? Or do we have to really stop? There are people who think that that's okay.
A lot of people think we'll just throw more bodies or money at it. And like we'll keep putting our shoulder to the wall and that's going to do it.
You run into that again, and I'm sure you have, as a consultant, a lot. People who more bodies can do things. And I always...
infinite monkeys with infinite typewriters is the...
You're right. You're right. I tell people 9 women can't have a baby in 1 month. Some things take time.
Nice.
Like
it. That's a great image. I love that. I'm going to use that.
Yeah. It's some things take time. We need certain things to happen before we can move on, and some of those roadblocks you can hop, but they don't go away. Right. You just still have to address them, but maybe you can address them at a later point. So, and those are the things that we need contingencies for. So, right. What is our contingency plan?
And then there was something else you brought up that is a great practice that I absolutely forgot about, which was the postmortem and the lessons learned. What worked, what didn't, what will we do differently, what will we do more of? I think making sure that you're learning as you go and adjusting and, taking time to celebrate what worked is a big part of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm probably as passionate about learning as I am about strategy. And so learning, if you're not learning, you're not doing something right. That's kind of my opinion. If you're not learning something new, look, we're developing this strategy to accomplish a goal, and we're not there already because we haven't done something. And so we're going to learn along the way as we get there, and you need to pass that knowledge along to everyone. I think that especially long-term projects tend to be accomplished in small groups. Um, Steve from accounting is going to handle this part, and then we're going to get the production group to do this, and then, and but everyone needs to have a shared vision of how we got from A to B.
Okay, shared vision, as I know that you know this, any enterprise resource planning investment technology, it will make it or fail miserably and go massively over budget depending on the amount of communication and buy-in you get for everybody that's affected by it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is the fact. Like,
I could not say it better. It is, well, it does a couple of things. I think it keeps morale high in that everyone feels like they're remaining part of the team. Not that they were just being used for their piece, but they are really truly part of the team, and part of that success. Um, and
the project manager and you're speaking, you put on your project manager hat, I can hear it. Yeah, and we all did this together, and look at what the company's going to be able to do, and we're all going to benefit, rah, rah, rah.
And everybody's saying, no, he didn't. He didn't really do anything. But everybody does contribute. You know, sometimes it's with a passing comment that you may not even think of as a bold statement that someone picks up on and says, you know, that's right, I forgot about that. And those things can really affect the outcome. It's so that's, you know, part of, I think, the big picture anatomy of everything that's involved in a strategy.
I like it, and it's more robust than I initially thought, and I became aware of my, and probably a lot of other people's, inclination to jump right into action without the foresight and planning of the "you are here" meeting, who on the team's going to be involved, what the goal is, what's achievable, what's stretch, how, like, there's a lot more pieces to this than I really thought. Sometimes when you've done something for a long time, it comes kind of naturally and you don't take the time to look at it. But I think you're going to get much better results if you look at these components and build them into your strategy, which a lot of you are probably doing right now as we're looking at the end of the year and New Year planning.
Yeah,